Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm sure I'm not the only member in this House who cringes with embarrassment when words like Chinese-sounding names are used as a measure of the same issue that that member is talking about, and does so repeatedly over some months, as if having a Chinese-sounding name is somehow something to be ashamed of. Well, I'm ashamed when I hear members judging New Zealanders by the sound of their name. I'm also hideously embarrassed when discussion is made of Indian chefs, as if that group of people was also a group of people to be ashamed of. And, of course, Thai metal workers have now joined that category of people in New Zealand of whom we should be ashamed. Well, I'll tell you who should be ashamed. The opposition, the Labor, yes, you see, they're reacting now because they should be ashamed. They should be ashamed that they are showing a misogynistic tendency which says you're okay if you've got a New Zealand-sounding name, but you're not okay if you've got a foreign-sounding name. Don't come to New Zealand. We don't want you. We only want New Zealanders in this country. Well, come on down, xenophobia, misogynist and xenophobia as well. Yeah, well, I mean that's true by implication. Well, here is an invitation for members of the Labor Greens, Labour, well, who would know and who would care. But here's an invitation to some of those members to come on down to Central Otago and have a look around at the skills shortages that we deal with on a daily basis. I'd like them to come on down to places like Alexandra, to Wanaka, to Queenstown, come on down to Roxburgh and Cromwell. In fact, David Parker, sitting there on the other side of the House, had a brief time as MP for Otago, and he did a pretty good job of it, actually. And he changed the immigration settings around Queenstown, providing for a very quick turnaround for those people coming from overseas who needed work permits. That was David Parker who did that. Now, imagine how embarrassed he feels now at the current attitude of the Labor Greens Labour New Zealand First unholy alliance, where they are effectively shutting the door on people coming into New Zealand, the skills labour that we need so badly. So how do you imagine Stuart Nash feels when he comes? He represents an area which is strong in pip fruit, strong in wine. How does he think when his own party and his potential coalition, God willing, it'll never happen because New Zealanders certainly won't accept it, but how would he feel, along with his colleague David Parker, about representing in the past those areas of New Zealand who need skilled workers, because we have skilled shortages in the regions. I often go to a meeting in Alexandra. It's called the Labour Market Governance Group, and again, I'm sure that when David Parker was the member for Otago, he also would have attended those meetings, where there are representatives of the growers, of course, but Ministry of Social Development, Immigration New Zealand are represented, Seasonal Solutions, Pip Fruit New Zealand are also represented, and I turn up as often as I can along with the Mayor and councillors, because it takes that kind of combined effort to put a case to Immigration New Zealand to get RSE workers into the region. What are Labour, the Greens and the New Zealand First going to do about those? What's their policy around RSE workers coming into New Zealand? Do they still support those workers, or if it's in line with their current words around immigration of workers, are they going to turn their back on those? Because I can tell you, Mr Speaker, we need those workers. If we don't, we won't get the grapes picked. If we don't have those skilled workers from coming overseas, we won't get the apples picked. For many, many years, Roxburgh growers tried really hard to get apples into Australia. Their industry was shaky. We now get the apples in. Now the problem is we need the workers. Shame on you, Labour. Shame on you, New Zealand First. Shame on you, the Greens, because of your xenophobic attitude is hurting the regional economies of New Zealand.
Well said.
Lewis and Wall.
Mr. Speaker.